you hope that you have a nurse or have someone that has some compassion, some empathy to go in and say, I'll sit with you. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll sit with you and we'll talk until if you're cold, I'll get you a warm blanket. We can do this until your family comes.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Emergency Nursing podcast. This is where we share stories for inspiration, entertainment, and encouragement, because we all know emergency nurses have the best stories. Now here's your host, Kevin McFarland.
Hey everybody, Kevin McFarland here, and thank you for listening to the show. I really appreciate it. On this, which is Nursing Week, and having just passed Mother's Day, I wanted to give you one of my favorite episodes with one of my favorite nurses. This nurse had such a huge influence on my career, and it's an honor to have her on the podcast. This episode is going to feel probably more than any other episode of mine that you're a fly on the wall just listening to a conversation. You're going to hear a couple of old friends catch up and talk about a lot of personal stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with one of the nurses who was very influential on my career. Her name is Bobbie, and you're going to love her. So enjoy this episode with my friend, my hero, one of the nurses I adore, Bobbie.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. You've gone and done so many things. I was thinking of that on Mother's Day,
It's
Mom would have been so proud.
Oh, that's super sweet of you to say. Life's been interesting. It's been cool. Life's been good.
Yes, it seems to be good. And Jenny's doing well?
Jenny's doing amazing. She is.
Yeah.
Everything happened so much faster than we could have possibly expected. Everything happened so much better than we could have possibly expected. We came out here.
Yeah.
We came out here thinking we were going to be out here a year or two before she even thought about transplant. And it all happened so fast. I mean, she was out here for about 6 months, if that.
Right.
And getting a transplant. And then when the transplant came, it happened so fast. It was, she was on the list on a Friday and she was getting transplanted on a Thursday, the following Thursday.
God. Oh my goodness.
She was on the list for 5 days.
See, and that's incredible.
It's crazy. It's almost unheard of. She was on the list for 5 days, and she was in the hospital for 11.
Yeah. Well, she just happened to match with whomever it was.
Yeah.
Do you know who the donor is?
No idea. So she's actually working on a letter to the family. She can write a letter to the family now, and it's 100% in their court whether or not they want to meet her. So
exactly.
It's in their court, and they can either choose to or not. And we may get to know who this person was, and we may never know. And we both kind of, it'd be really cool to know, but we both have accepted that if we don't know, we don't know. And
right.
She was giving me a hard time, going, "You could probably find out," and I was like.
Oh.
I was like, I probably could, but I was very specifically told not to.
Exactly.
And I was like, so we're going to honor the process and we're not going to know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not until, if they want to reach out.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But that would be neat if Jenny got to know who the donor was.
Yeah, it'd be cool to know. It'd be really cool to know. And I mean, they've given us such an incredible gift. Just the thought that, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, she was, on 6 liters of oxygen and could barely breathe.
Right.
Couldn't come up the stairs to the second level of the house ever. Because it was just too much work. And now to the point where she's working a 40-hour work week, and was going. Oh, I feel pretty good. So.
Nice. I saw the picture. It was on Facebook last night, I believe, of when she was walking down to both chest tubes, and she looked tired, but she looked so awesome.
Yeah, and that was like day one. That was like,
oh yeah.
I think that was like 24 hours out. If I'm not mistaken, it was 24 hours later, and they were like, okay, time to move. Let's go.
Right. Oh my God, I know.
It's crazy.
They don't wait anymore.
No,
it's like,
they don't.
boom.
They don't screw around. And I mean, she was in the ICU. She was in the ICU for about 24 hours, and then went to the floor. And she was on the floor for 11 days and went home. And it was just
That's awesome.
Amazing. And I remember when she was in the ICU and she had the nasal cannula on, and she's like, you know, there was a video. I don't know if you ever seen it. There was a video that was circulating, and it was a woman who had a lung transplant, and they extubate her, and she's like breathing, and it's like this big dramatic, you know, like she's taking her first breaths, and it's an amazing video. It's just an amazing video.
Right.
And Jenny was like, yeah, it wasn't really like that. You know, that's not really how it was for me. And that's what she was kind of expecting, and it wasn't. She was just kind of sitting there going, so she's looking around like going, so it looks like it's doing okay? We're like, yeah, looks like it's doing okay. She's like, well, how's my saturation? I go, your sat's 100%. And she's like, how many liters of oxygen am I on? And I was like, you're not on any oxygen. And she's like, well, then why the hell am I wearing this cannula?
Exactly.
I was
Take
like,
that damn thing off.
I was like, well, you take it off. Let's get that shit off.
Oh.
So
yeah.
It's
I'm
crazy.
so happy. I bet her mom was just thrilled too.
Oh, just thrilled to death. Thrilled to death.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It just, oh my God. I remember him in the ER, and it's like, oh, geez.
It's an amazing gift. That's for sure.
It is. It is. And I don't think people realize that, you know. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way. There's no other way to say it than it was an amazing gift.
Yeah.
And we're eternally grateful, and we will be forever. And you know, one of the things she said was, I feel like I owe it to somebody to go out there and do something with my life, and not just sit around on the couch and, you know, waste these new lungs.
Order from
Amazon, right? That's right. Yeah, nobody seems to be on my side on that one. Everyone's on her side.
Well, I don't know. Depends on what she's ordering.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
You know,
it's a good
if she
point.
needs it, she can have it. If she's just playing like on Zulily and Amazon and all those places.
Yeah, it's a little.
You know.
It's a little of both. So. She's buying a lot of jewelry and clothes for her job. Now that she's working, she needs stuff. So she justifies it that way.
Well, that's true though.
Yeah. So.
Well, what is she doing? I don't even know what she's.
So she's working as an event planner.
And it's not too strenuous, and
not too strenuous. A little stressful sometimes, but she's like. Yeah. She likes it. She enjoys it. So. Yeah.
Good.
She's.
Good.
She's enjoying it so far. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's what counts.
How are things for you?
Nights?
So I'm working nights now.
How are things with me? Yeah. Oh God, Kevin. Do you like nights?
You know, I do. It was a night position that they kind of dangled but it might be swings down the road. And now
I like swing shift.
And now and I do too. But I was kind of thinking to myself, I can't do nights. And more importantly, I was thinking that Jenny wouldn't be able to work with me doing nights. And, you know, but we were kind of like, well, this is kind of what we need to do right now. And my goal was that it was going to be very temporary, and it was supposed to be till the end of the year. And the end of the year, I was like, this is kind of working. So I said, that's, you know, I work 3 days a week, and when I'm off, I'm off. And
yes.
If I'm not working, no one's looking for me.
So what is your interview thing? Here we are talking, and you haven't even gone to sleep yet.
So I'm doing a podcast, and the podcast is called The Art of Emergency Nursing, and it's all about talking to emergency nurses and hearing their stories. So it's I've interviewed. I don't know, probably 10 or 12 people so far, and just kind of ask. It's kind of all the same questions, typically. And then, you know, the questions start all the same, and then we just kind of see where things go. And it's just having conversations with emergency nurses and hearing their stories and sharing their stories. So.
Oh, gosh.
it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, and just hearing the stories.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the births, the deaths, the everything in between.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That you personally were involved in. The hands that you've held. You know, it's just that to me, that's the gold of this podcast, is to get those kinds of stories.
Right. Well, they've gotten so far away from sitting at somebody's bedside and holding their hand.
Yeah.
Or sitting there, because no family's there while they're dying.
Yeah.
This kind of thing. And, at the end, we didn't have time to take care of people. It was go, 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 go,
Yeah. Sometimes
and
it's like that.
It was terrible. I remember a guy coming in and dying by himself because of the patient load and stuff. And I said, don't you ever do that to me again.
Yeah.
You could have taken one of these patients so I could have sat with him and his wife while this man died. I think it took like maybe 40 minutes, and it was like, I was so upset about him dying by himself.
Yeah. Yep.
And it just, things like that. People forget these are people that we're taking care of.
How long have you been a nurse?
Since 1972.
1972. Holy cow, that's a long time.
I know. It was. I went to the old Presbyterian, TVI, where the old Presbyterian Sanatorium used to be.
Yeah.
And that's where, it was a 2-year program, and that's where I got my LPN.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was. I graduated on the same night that my mom graduated from being a CNA. We both went to TVI. We both graduated the same night.
So she graduated as a CNA when you graduated with your LPN? Or vice versa?
No, we both graduated the same night.
No kidding. It
was pretty awesome.
That's really cool. So was your mom in healthcare? So your mom was in healthcare too?
Yeah, my mom used to do home health care after she got her CNA and stuff. And so Mickey's in home health care, my sister.
Uh-huh.
I am. Kathy was for a while, but she couldn't do it anymore because of her MS. So, yeah, teachers and healthcare professionals.
Wow.
That's what my family is.
So what made you decide on nursing?
I don't know. I always wanted to be a nurse. I know that sounds stupid. I know a lot of people say that, but my mom was really ill. I don't think you knew my mom.
No.
But took care of her. She had really bad asthma and emphysema there at the end, and taking care of her, in between classes and that sort of thing. I don't know. Watching her die was just. Nobody was there. Nobody offered one bit of empathy. And I can still remember standing in front of the room in the old MICU at UNM and watching them code my mom. All the doctors that were still there.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And standing there crying. And then after they called it after my brother finally got there. And, it just, no one came up to me and said, Bobbie, I'm sorry.
Really?
Nothing. Not a thing, not a word. I guess because I worked there. Who knows?
Huh.
But I do remember that because it was like, oh, my God, you guys, So it was
Wow.
It was very, very hard. Yeah, it was terrible.
Wow. It's
So I swore I would never do that.
It's hard enough when it's hard enough when somebody dies, but when it's like somebody and their family, it's harder.
Oh, yeah.
It's harder, but that makes it more important.
Yes. But I did. I swore that I would never allow the family to be by themselves, and I would never allow anybody to die by themselves.
Yeah.
That you could, it doesn't take that much to go in and say, here, I'm here with you. Do you need anything? you want me to call the priest? Is there family you need me to call? What do you need? And it didn't happen when my mom died.
Wow.
And I'm sure that they were just as upset. No, they couldn't have been just as upset as me.
No.
Trying to get hold of my family and get the kids, the grandma, not the grandma, they're not her grandkids, my sisters and my brother and everyone up there.
Yeah.
It was a horrible experience, just horrible. I still remember it.
Wow.
It just, your mama had she had it was good that she had all of you guys there, in that big room, and she got to see everybody. Nobody, they come in and out to see if she needed any help or anything, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't get that.
They were good to us when my mom died. They were really good to us. So
to give you that big room, and it just was awesome.
And one of my memories that I've shared a million times, I've told this story a million times, was you, Susan Salt, and I think it was Yoli. Going up there and giving my mom a bed bath when she was dying, and it was just one of those, like, oh my God, it's like I'm welling up with tears just talking about it, because it was such a cool thing. It was such a such a lovely thing to do. That was
right. Well, nobody, people deserve to die with dignity. No matter who you are, you still have the right to die with dignity.
Absolutely.
And if you're soiled, that's not dignity.
Absolutely.
So, if you're coughing and stuff is everywhere, that's not dignity.
Yeah.
So, make them comfortable and make them feel like they're still a person.
Absolutely.
And, I remember that day. I remember it well, changing her bed and doing, But she needed to shit her family around her. You guys didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Everybody
was so good to us that it was like as good as a death can go is how well it went.
Right.
I mean, it's as good as it could go.
Right. Now, Kathy just died, my older sister.
I didn't know that.
She died 2 years on Thanksgiving Day. And now, since I don't know anybody at the ER, they wouldn't let me go in. She was in the recess room, and she was by herself and all of this sort of stuff. And Steve McLaughlin came up, and he opened the door, and he took me back there, and she had already been transported to MICU. Well, she was still awake. The guy came in, the head honcho of MICU for that time, who was a cardiologist, did an echo and said, this is not a survivable injury. It happened a week ago. Look at this ultrasound, this kind of thing. And I remember her looking up at me and saying, Bobbie, I don't want to die. And it's like, I can't help you. I can't help you.
Yeah.
I could do anything, but I cannot help you survive this, and what do you say? And thank God they gave her some medicine, and she just kind of was asleep until she died the next day.
Wow.
But the people were wonderful. I didn't even know we had like a hospice unit at our UNM.
Yeah, Dozeman's doing that now. Did you know that?
I know. Yeah, he was doing palliative care.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like more people need to stay at home.
Absolutely.
With their families and their surroundings, and it just I don't know. I think that. Go ahead.
How many? This is just a random question. How many people do you think you've been there when they've passed?
When they died?
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
In the ER.
There's some that really. You want to know? Okay, I'll tell you a story about somebody I took care of, and this was during the smoking day, so that's why I was out back. And
of course you were.
Up walks this man. I don't smoke anymore.
Good for you.
This man was walking up, and he had this limp child in his hand and in his arms. And he said, I don't know what's wrong with her. but she won't wake up for me.
Oh, God.
So, took her into the trauma room, had Grandpa wait outside, and this child had been hit. She was blunt trauma to the abdomen and was just, there's nothing we could do. She was already dead. But, of course, that's not true. We do what we have to, even though they are dead.
Yeah.
And I remember doing mouth-to-mouth on her before anybody got into the room and having her throw up. It was like one of those experiences. But it had come to be, this was Grandpa, and he it was his granddaughter. And the other twin, the other child had been taken away and stuff, and he was bringing this child in, and it was his granddaughter.
Holy cow.
And it's like, oh my God, there's nothing we can do. She was already dead when she got there.
Wow.
Things like that, people bringing in the old ER would come to the window and not fling, but pass their babies onto you. Here, I don't know what to do, and you'd have this dead baby in your arms.
Baby in your arms.
You know that.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Oh my God, and it's like, oh shit. So things like that. I think I've been with quite a few people, more people in the recess room than the trauma room, probably.
Of course.
And more people out on the floor than in the recess room.
Yeah.
Where they just come, a lot of them just come to die because their families can't handle it.
Yeah.
And you hope that you have a nurse or have someone that has some compassion, some empathy to go in and say, I'll sit with you. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll sit with you and we'll talk until you, if you're cold, I'll get you a warm blanket. We can do this until your family comes. And it just kind of happens, you know? So lots of people, I would say. In 30 years, lots of people.
Lots of people.
Because that's how long I was in the ER. I think it's too numerous to count.
Yeah, it's a long career. It's a long career for the ED.
It is, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
It really was. I enjoyed it. I really did. I loved working there.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. What was your favorite? What was your favorite part about being a nurse?
Oh, the kids. Playing with the kids. Yeah. Everything was actually my favorite part of nursing, but playing with the kids, or taking care of somebody and making a difference, I think, was the biggest thing.
Oh.
So,
I can't even imagine how many lives you've touched in your career, Bobbie.
Oh, a lot of them. A lot that I can remember.
Yeah.
Starting, oh, God. I started when it was so different. We had 2 critical care rooms, 2.
Wow.
A trauma room and a recess room. We had 2 gyn rooms. We had 8 cubicles and 1 ENT room.
That's it?
That was it. And then we had 4 hall stretchers for the homeless, or if they were cold or whatever, they would be put in the hall, which we aren't supposed to do anymore. But, even so, if the ambulance would drop off stinky people, kind I'm talking about, some people, I can name a couple names, wouldn't even touch them.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even go near them. And it's like, let's find a bathtub. Let's clean this person up, and then we can talk to him. So, and he would come in every other week. I think he came in just to get a bath. But, probably, let's go to UNM. It's the bathtub. But anyway,
That's
lots
funny.
of people.
Wow.
Lots and lots of people, But I can remember taking care of a young kid that had AIDS and who had started seizing and, wasn't a very good outlook. And they were going to take him for a CAT scan. This is when Lizzie was still a charge person.
Uh-huh.
And he looked up and he said, I am so scared. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to die. And that's the last time I ever saw him,
Wow.
holding hands with this AIDS patient, and everybody else is going, oh, you're going to be infected. Oh, goodness. It's like, oh, come on. I'm not kissing him.
Yeah.
I'm not drawing his blood. I'm holding his hand because
Yeah.
he's scared. So it takes a little bit more time.
Yep.
It takes a little more time to make somebody comfortable to say, look, I have to invade your space.
We do that every day. We do that all day. Nurses do that all day, every day, and we don't think about it.
I know.
It becomes second nature.
Mhm. But how many people? Oh, I don't know. I just remember when I had the heart attack, and people would come in to do stuff, and I couldn't. I had too many IVs in and too much to do. I mean, too much. What do I say? The monitor and everything. Up in MICU, but they would come in to do their job, but I wasn't a person, you know? I was just this body laying there that we had to come in and, wash her face or do whatever. And maybe that had a lot to do with it too, but that was down the line. I had the heart attack in 2002.
Wow.
So, but you still remember these things,
Yeah.
You still remember them.
Yep.
I'm invading your space. I have to put a catheter in you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just tell me and I can deal with anything.
Yeah.
As long as you talk to them. So I don't know if these young nurses have the same attitude. I would hope so.
I think they do.
I
think they do.
I hope
I think they learn. I think they learn from the old nurses, and I think there's some people that just inherently have that.
Right.
I think
so.
We had a code last night at work, and
oh gosh,
there's a young nurse who is a fairly new nurse and not super experienced, but she was just so kind and so thoughtful and thinking of everything and trying to make sure she was doing everything right. And I was just like, God, I just this is a good nurse. She's going to be a great nurse.
Right. Yes.
She's going to be a great nurse, and she already is. She's already, she's been a nurse just over a year, and she's great.
Yeah.
So.
See, that's true. I do think that you have to have it in you, and I think that it grows as you grow. You can have all the education in the world. You can have every initial after your name, but that doesn't make you a better nurse than somebody that would rather walk in, make somebody comfortable, hold their hand, and then be able to work on them without them being frightened.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's what I used to tell, the people that I mentored and this sort of thing. You have to talk to the people. You have to tell them what's going on. You have to sit down and hold their hands. I remember taking, so many people. All she wanted to do was have somebody to talk to and cry.
Yeah.
And that's what part of it is too.
No.
So.
One of the things that I think a lot of us take for granted, and just kind of assume is family presence for like resuscitations and such. Family being present during that, and as uncomfortable as it is, it's super important. But you probably, you worked at a time when that was probably something you didn't do.
No. They stood in the hallway, and with all the chaos and this that goes on with the code or trauma, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
They used to just stand and if anybody got to go out and talk to them, it was hours. And they'd see this body with all the tubes and all the things going by them to get a CAT scan, an MRI, and nobody talks to them.
Yeah.
So, it's like, come on, follow me. There was a time when UNM did not have the CAT scan. Were you aware of that? We used to do them in a trailer outside.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that.
So we'd have to wheel these people down. Oh, it was interesting. Thank God we got a room for it. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, watching my mother be encoded was very traumatic. And I don't know if I could stand there and watch one of my children or grandchildren.
Yeah.
I probably would. I'd probably be a fly in the corner.
Yeah.
And praying, come on, God, please, oh, please, oh, please. How many times did you do that? Kevin, oh, please, just let him turn the corner. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not, has nothing to do with God or anything, but, it's just this feeling that you have, oh, please, whether you're Catholic, whatever your religious beliefs are, please, oh, please, oh, please.
Yeah.
Whoever the higher power is, please let this baby turn the corner. That was the hardest. Telling moms or dads that their babies had died.
Oh, it's the worst.
Or their son.
It's the worst.
We had a night, 12-hour shift, 7 to 7 in the morning. We had 12 deaths in a 12-hour period of time.
Holy smokes!
It was so overwhelming. I mean, I looked at the people and it was like, oh my God, never have had. I mean, this included, young kids. This included teenagers. Included old people. It was just one right after the other. And I remember driving home just totally, blank, thinking about all of this stuff and the kids and the families and stuff. And I got stopped by a cop. It was in my Volkswagen. Do you remember my Volkswagen?
I remember your Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Well, you probably weren't paying attention. Mine was probably 100 miles.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't speeding like a maniac, but I guess I was speeding. And he pulled me over and I said, I'm really sorry, sir. This is what's happened today. And he goes, oh, you need to just watch more. Give me the ticket. I want to go home. I want to kiss my kids. I'm sorry I was speeding 5 minutes over the limit. But I remember that. That was probably the hardest shift.
I can't even imagine.
Oh,
how do you recover from a shift like that? I mean, what did you do? How did you deal with that?
I kissed my kids. I hug them.
Yeah.
There's really, it's hard. I mean, there's no specific way that you'd say, oh, phew, I'm glad that's done. We'd gather in the back and, because we were smokers and stuff like that, and, cry.
Yeah.
Be angry, whatever we were feeling, and it was Chris Osterbo. Oh, I shouldn't say names.
That's fine.
I'm sorry. Chris and Eve and me and I think Lydia. Huh. And it just was like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Please just, let me catch my breath. Let me go see. Let me go, have a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So that, and then you can step back in and after you've regrouped,
come back to it
and go back in. Yeah. You just, if you can't, then you need to stay in the break room or outside a little longer.
Yeah. And
no one should be chastised for that. If you're really, really upset, it's like, I can't do this right now. Can you please watch patient in such and such a room? I can't go back in there. And, sometimes it would be yes, sometimes it would be no. And it was just like, oh my God, so I don't know. Yeah. You just do it.
Yep.
I mean, you just do it.
You just do it.
Anybody that
you just got, you just do it. You're just like, you got to push through, and sometimes it sucks, and sometimes it's hard, and sometimes at the end of a 12-hour shift, you feel like you've worked a 20-hour shift, but you get through it.
Yeah, you do. It just you don't even question it.
Yeah.
You don't question it. It's just something that happens.
Yep.
So, I don't know. We would all talk. We'd all cry. I have no problem watching somebody die and crying with the family.
Plenty.
It would. yeah, it would just happen, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know, and I can remember a couple nurses that worked in the ER with us that didn't want to have anything to do with people that were dying. They'd do the trauma, you know, the guts and glory of the trauma. Didn't like the recess because it was boring and slow paced and this kind of thing. But they wouldn't
Yeah,
go into a room where
there's
somebody was dying.
there's never an audience for a good recess. Always an audience for
Yeah.
a trauma.
Oh yeah, let me come in here. Let me do my Give me a good recess any day. And you know what somebody said? Do you know Craig Tim, Dr. Tim,
I don't
cardiology?
think I do. No, I don't think I do.
Big, tall. Yeah, I've been there forever and stuff. He was my cardiologist, but I was just sitting there talking because I have to go every 6 months. I still do. And he said, you know what, Bobbie? When I go down there and do rounds with all of my students and all of the interns, you know, the residents and stuff, he said, I always knew my patients that were a cardiac patient were taken care of because you were taking care of them.
Oh, that's
and
good
I
to
said,
hear.
well, that's yeah, it is. And I didn't get much. Well, we don't. Neither do you.
Yeah.
And he, way to go. Hey, way to go, Kevin.
Yeah,
you know, it's just like,
you don't get a
it
whole lot.
happens.
You don't always get a lot of thanks.
Yeah.
Like I always felt like the thanks came from your peers, where your peers were like,
Right.
and it wasn't usually a hey thanks. It was usually like a a little fist bump or a little hug at the end of the shift, and you'd be like,
Right.
yeah, that fucking sucked, and they're like, yeah, that fucking sucked. Yeah,
Exactly.
And you say,
Exactly.
You're like, see you tomorrow. I'm like, see you tomorrow. So,
Yeah. Same day, same thing, different day.
yeah, same shit,
So I
different
guess
day.
you just do it like that. Yeah.
That's.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember many of those days. So
Yep.
I remember many heavy conversations happening behind that old shed in the ambulance bay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Lots of them. I'd be like, oh my God.
lots of heavy conversations there.
Yep. Lots of conversations.
Holy cow!
But we were there for each other.
It's true.
But anyway, I love the ER, and I miss it terribly.
Yeah.
I've missed it from day one.
I bet.
And I miss it. I miss the people, the patients, not some of the people, Michelle and that kind of thing. But I don't know if I could go back to the same pace.
Oh no, it's totally different. It's so busy anymore, Bobbie. It's just
I know.
It's so like I feel bad for our nurses that we have a small ER compared to the ER that you grew up in and that you were
right.
A small ER compared to that, but it's just busy. It's just always busy.
Uh-huh.
And always inpatients, always boarding, and it's just the way it is, and they're just busy all the time. So
and the violence. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It just hopefully something has been done about that since I've been gone. But oh my Lord.
Yeah, no, they're still working on that one. Still working on that.
Oh yeah. But when we started, Kevin, and we all worked together, you and me and a bunch of the other ones, we all had each other's back.
100%.
Exactly. And it would be the tone of the voice or, a stance or something that said, hey, I need you guys in here.
Yeah.
And by the time I left, they didn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
You were like on your own.
Yeah. One of my memories, one of my favorite Bobbie memories was we had a patient in AA who was AA was our psych room, who was butt naked, walking in circles around the room, and he was talking to himself and talking gibberish. And this med student comes to the nurse's station and he goes, "Hey, I need to get some AMA paperwork." And we're like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "Yeah, the gentleman in AA would like to leave against medical advice." And I was like, "What? Huh?" And this is before I was a nurse. And I remember going, wait, no, we're not going to go tell the attending that you want that guy. And I pointed to the monitor. I said, we're not going to tell the attending you want that guy to go AMA. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, son, we're going to save your career here by not having this conversation.
Exactly. Right.
And I'll never forget, you and Eve were like, well, you just got to go talk to him. And he's like, well, and like I said something, and he said something like, well, he's naked. And you're like, well, go tell him to put some clothes on. And you and Eve took this resident, you walked him down there. And I remember, I'll never forget this. You know, here's you and Eve arm in arm with this poor resident who is, you know, brand new. And you're walking him down there. And, you know, here's two, forgive me for saying this, two old ladies who are like, oh, we'll go take care of the naked crazy guy. It's not a big deal. I'm not. And the three of you went into the room, and just your body language, if you remember the old benches we had in there, you were like sprawled out on a bench, like sitting like you were just, you know, shooting the shit. Eve's sitting on the bed going, hey, dude, you got to get your clothes on. Nobody wants to see your pecker. and this resident's standing there, and he's standing at the door, and he's got like one foot in the doorway, like he's afraid the door's going to close. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, that's the difference between an experienced ER nurse and a brand new ER resident.
No, and he'll never forget.
And he'll like that resident's probably told that story a million times.
Oh, yeah.
And the patient doesn't remember, so it's no big deal. But oh my God. And
exactly.
I just remember thinking to myself, okay, that's the kind of nurse I want to be when I'm a nurse.
Going to lay down on the bench. Come on, dude. Clothes on.
You're like, just how relaxed you guys were with the crazy naked guy, and the poor resident was just dying. He was just he wanted to let the guy leave. So
dude, you wouldn't get past the
Yeah,
oh,
no,
boy.
you gotta have pants to leave. Come on, let's one thing at a time.
Sorry, you got to put on at least jockey shorts, something.
Right, something.
Yeah, I know. I used to love the new residents.
Oh yeah,
you know,
one of the things I really love was being in a teaching facility. Is so much fun. You get to see you get to see from where they go from knowing absolutely nothing to where they become invincible, and they realize that they still know nothing. And then they start to really make progress. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me and answer my questions. I really appreciate you. And I love you.
Oh, well, thank you. I love you.
So
I love you a lot.
I love you a lot too. You always have a special place in my heart.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Art of Emergency Nursing podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Facebook.